Oh, Simon Kennedy Ellis, there you are, all the way in Sassari.
Sassari, exactly. It's true. Long-term listeners, long-term.
Both would work.
Yeah, long-term listeners will know that Lil and I have a place here. And today it was very exciting. Not that I think we should go into too much of this, but today was the last of the major things that we needed to get done. Everything else is just going to be little knickknacks. But today we installed the sliding doors, which sort of separate the sitting space from the kitchen space. They're barn doors, effectively. Yes. So my friends Igor Moreno and we went and bought the things from a big one of those massive barns, which is called a hardware store.
Leroy Merlin or something like that.
Yes, actually that does exist, but no, it's called Technomat.
The famous Technomat.
Exactly. And then today we did that thing, and all sorts of things might have gone wrong, as in not level, doors don't fit, etc., but just worked perfectly. And it's so exciting. This is a podcast in which two friends talk about the pleasures, absurdities, and imperfections of being human. I'm Simon Ellis.
And I'm Lee Miller. Welcome to Midlifing.
I think the thing for me about coming here is that the rhythm of my life is so different. And I was trying to figure it out. I don't know whether this is something worth talking about, or maybe you've got other things to talk about, but is that I think in part that's about sharing a space with someone else.
Right.
Very different.
Right.
But
yes.
I think it's just also about this town and about Italy in general, but this town in particular, where time is just a little bit stretched, a little bit more chilled, much less like, go, go, go. I'm not sure that Coventry is like go, 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 but so yeah, it's a very different kind of feeling. I like it.
That sense of being less go, 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 does that mean that you are more languid and soft? Or does it mean that you fill your days with plenty of things, but the pressure to do them is less?
I think it's more about the feeling of how people are when they, it's like, for example, like lots of popping by.
Okay.
Walking past someone in the street, seeing them, having a little bit of a natter, and then stopping in. So there's just a sense that, like, it's relaxed and convivial. I don't think the UK is. I think it. I mean, I don't want to be mean or anything like that. This is not the way this is meant to come out. But it doesn't have a. Doesn't have that kind of softness that, a lot of European, I think of Eastern Europe, like in Macedonia, where there's just people who just spend a lot of time just walking up and down and just chatting, and doesn't have that same kind of feel. This is much more similar to that, really. I feel I get infected by it a little bit.
Yeah. I think it's one of those things where it becomes easy to go, yeah, but the weather's so hard in the UK. It's really wet all the time. It's really cold all the time. While that is true, it is also true that you can go to places that are colder and wetter, and there's still that sort of sense of wandering around.
Yeah, so I don't know. I mean, those are deep cultural things we're talking about, but
there is a sort of topic normal for midlifing sort of on the horizon here that we can choose to steer into or we can ignore, and that's billionaires.
I mean, I think you should own that one. I think it's more your topic. Normal.
Okay, it's my topic now.
Yeah.
But the idea...
I'm very happy to go there.
Okay, I think that here in the UK, we know that we have lost third spaces to such a degree, and the ones that exist are privatised. So spaces, external spaces, are privatised and policed in a completely different way than they used to be, or they are in other parts, certainly in other parts of Europe. And so I think that makes it makes us, well, it often feels as if we are being policed when we try to gather. There's that notion. I was talking to a friend in Portugal about the notion of loitering with intent. And she said, "What?
Such a lovely phrase,
What does that mean?" I said, "Oh, it's a legal phrase, loitering with intent." And she said, "No, I don't know what that means. What's a loiter? What is it?" And I was like, "Oh, hanging around." She said, "Okay, so I understand what intent means. You know, this is somebody whose English is impeccable, but there is no and loitering with intent is such a specific." Piece of
it's a loitering intent with intent to do something, isn't it?
The intent,
and something not good.
Exactly. The intent here is that you're going to break the law. You're going to, there'll be a misdemeanor at the end of it.
You're on the verge.
Yeah.
It's a thought crime, basically.
Oh my God, it's a thought crime. Jesus. But that's how
But it's a little bit like that Tom Cruise film, isn't it?
Cocktail. Sorry.
What did you say?
I said cocktail. I was being silly. Minority Report. It is. It's a little...
Who was the guy who played
Brian Brown
in Cocktail?
Come on.
He died in the film.
I think he sadly took his own life in the film. Wasn't he in the Thornbirds? No, that was the other fella. No, maybe he was. I think he might have been the second banana after Richard Chamberlain.
Oh, because Richard Chamberlain was also, he played in the original series of the...
Shogun.
The guy who... Oh, that's not what I was thinking. I was thinking the guy who wakes up, doesn't have his memory, and then he has to figure it out.
The Fugitive.
No. No.
Inception.
Oh, Jesus, now you're just saying words. You're supposed to be helping me, not hindering me.
I thought I was trying to do my best. Anyway,
you know the one that. Oh my God, my memory is so bad. This is so embarrassing. I'm covering my face.
Well, I know he was in Dr. Kildare, but you don't mean that.
No, I mean the one that So Ben Affleck, Matt Damon is in that series of films about
the Bourne Identity.
The Bourne Identity. Richard Chamberlain was in the original TV
Shut
series of that.
up. Was he?
I'm pretty sure.
Wow.
I am pretty sure.
That is officially before my time.
We're digressing here.
Yeah, we are. So, thought crimes. Loitering with intent.
Yeah, Minority Report. Minority Report, exactly. Let's catch them before they actually do that kind of thing.
And I think we were joking about something. Bob and I were joking with our friend about something and saying that we were loitering with intent, and then it led to a long untangling of what that means. And her recognition that there wasn't a word that she could think of in Portuguese that would be the equivalent of loitering.
Oh, that is interesting. Forget about the intent.
Yeah. And it was with intent bit was kind of it disappeared in the conversation quite quickly. But just that idea of hanging around, because there is something innately negative about the idea of loitering. You don't need to say with intent, do you? It's implied.
Because we've just come back from our, a Sunday evening stroll to get a gelato.
Your life is awful. How do you cope?
It was really difficult. It was on the way to the bank to get some money out. And we were like, look, here's our favourite gelateria called Tondini.
Tondini.
The woman with the hat, wearing the kind of, And she only charged us 60 cents. She made an error. And so we had to go back. And then we explained the error, and she said, oh, she didn't understand. They said, we walked in, after, this is only after 20 minutes, we're back. They go, biz, B-I-S, which is, I didn't know this, which is, oh, you're back for another. If you're at a pub, at a bar or whatever, so someone will say, biz, meaning would you like another one?
Yeah.
And we said no. And so we finally got her. Like, it was quite difficult to get her to charge us the remainder for what it should have been. And then she tried to give us something.
Oh,
I know.
yeah.
We're not in Birmingham now.
Well, I was going to say I'm going to come to generosity in a little while after we've hammered loitering on
figured
the
out
head.
loitering. Oh, sorry, what I meant to say, I didn't finish. That was a sidebar, because we'd just been out, and of course everyone is out at that time of night on Sunday, and there's lots of people just sitting in the squares, drinking whatever, and so it's not like boozy.
No.
It's just people are out.
Yeah, exactly.
And
And
it's not because it's actually quite cold today. It's not cold, but it's definitely not. It's not what it's like it's been.
no, but it's that sense again, I think, of there being a public life or a life in
Yes.
public. Is that better? Maybe it's a life in public rather than a public life.
Yeah, because public life makes me think of Keir Starmer.
Yes, something that you are doing.
Or, sorry, as he's known here, Keir Starmer.
Oh, that sounds so fancy. Yeah, I don't mean a public life. I mean a life in public. The idea of, and that's, I do genuinely believe that there is something about the lack of third spaces here in the UK, that now we have home or work, and there is nothing that isn't commercially driven.
Yes, I was thinking there's probably the closest thing is malls.
Yeah, but
They're
they're
commercially
so
driven,
but it's not only that they're commercially driven, which of course they are, but they are also policed so heavily that you're not allowed to loiter. You're not allowed to go in and be a group of unruly kids or even ruly kids. You get moved on. There is that sense of don't sit there. But not to kick the UK while it's down, just to recognise that the social spaces don't exist. And I know you can say, oh, but pubs are also a commercial space. But yes, they are. But they function in it. They functioned in a different way, and they're just shutting down hand over fist. They don't exist in the same way. The ones that do exist are chains.
Things like libraries, and there are few, if any, quiet spaces for people. It's really is. It's very damaging, isn't it? If you're living in a noisy home, and your house is noisy, and there's just nowhere. Oh, it's really difficult.
Yeah, and so in that context of a culture which believes that we loiter if we stand still, which doesn't have third spaces because billionaires.
That's right. I'd completely forgotten that we were coming back to billionaires.
I'm never far away from wanting to rag on those little fuckers. And then weather. It does mean that we just we pull our necks in. We become more insular, and so it's work or home. Fucking hell, that's depressing saying all that out loud, isn't it? I'm not so depressed by it, but it's just such an interesting thing to recognise and I guess maybe the question would be, or the ways in which we or people or human beings might counteract that. There's something about I don't know. Maybe I think about even in Coventry on a Saturday morning. There's quite a lot of mall. It's kind of the way in which it's. I'm not going to say designed. The way in which it sort of emerged post-war. There's quite a lot of kind of foot traffic in the sort of central part of Coventry, and so maybe there's a sense of that kind of just kind of going pretty slow, and yet there's also has an edge to it. Which I don't feel here, even with lots of young teenagers, groups of teenage boys. I always got a sense that there's something kind of cute about them. I don't know. There's something here, and I just wonder about how much, and perhaps the work you were doing when you were doing sort of site-based work. Maybe there's a sort of sense in which that takes back the kinds of ways those spaces are inhabited or can be imagined, or that's
both for the people who see them and.
That's always the intention of that kind of work. It's the Richard Serra's Tilted Arc in the middle of that square. It's deliberately designed. It's a big Corten steel sculpture that bifurcates, or used to because it was moved, bifurcates this big plaza in New York that made it impossible for people to walk across it. They had to walk around it, and it really pissed people off. Really pissed people off because they wanted to just be as quick as possible, because, you know, this was about getting from an office to a sandwich and back again, and now you've put, you know, 80 seconds on my trip, and, you know, yeah, it's an interesting piece. Anyway, sorry.
It does remind me of there's a wonderful writer whose name, of course, Richard Sennett. You know Richard Sennett's work?
Yeah, I do.
And he writes beautifully about he's written about many, many different things, but the thing that's coming to mind is the necessity for friction in what you've just described there in New York, where the kind of points of friction in city spaces and in urban landscapes become really important, because they make things possible which chance encounters, all sorts of other things, which are very different from creating situations, spaces which are as frictionless as possible.
Yeah.
And because, of course, it's very hard to, if you can imagine, if you're some kind of city planner or something, can you imagine your argument? Look, we just need a little more friction in the way in which people interact or the way in which people pass through this thing. You know, because the obvious and easy argument is to make things easier. Always make things easier.
But the question is always, who is it being made easier for? Because it's not usually being made easier for people who have mobility issues. It's not usually being made easier for people who might want to slow down. It's being made easier for the transit of commerce. It's being made and we're now in a situation,
for the billionaires.
Yeah, we're in a situation where the friction, the lack of friction at the point of sale is just hilarious. You know, you don't have to look anybody in the eye to engage in a transaction. I find that
yeah, it's really hard. They're very difficult things. They're very, very difficult things to counter.
Yeah.
And I don't, it's really interesting here. There's a small bakery which is newly opened. Maybe it's a year old, maybe it's a little bit more. It's called Lievita. So the accent is on the, and as you can imagine with a word like that, it has Lievita. It's a bakery, and it's the first that I've seen I remember one in Bologna. There's a few in Rome, which is selling slow fermented, whole grain, lots of different kinds of bread. I mean, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful bread. And I was always suspicious that a bakery like that would succeed here, just because they're so used to eating what's mostly very white, kind of fluffy bread, really, with quite thick crusts. Not quite nice bread, but still.
No, I know the kind you mean, yeah.
Yeah, and I went in the other day just to look because, and it was packed. And I thought, wow, and I was talking to Lil about it, and she said, well, the other thing is that here they also, because again, it's quite a small city, right? It's not a big city, and there's a real strong sense of supporting local businesses.
Yeah.
And even though there's a Zara brand of, is that there's a few of those kinds of shops.
Yeah.
But not really, not a lot. And so there's lots of local businesses. And so I think there's something also about the fact that it's a local business. It's all baked on in store there, and it's you can tell it's just going off. But it's a very curious thing. I mean, another example. And this is this is becoming a sort of compare and contrast episode of midlifing, but. Do you know Too Good For Go, right? The app.
Yes, I do.
And
the food one.
And Too Good For Go, pardon?
The food one for food that's
food one.
You don't want to waste food.
Yeah, and so businesses can just put something on, and you have an app, and you can get notified if you want, and then you say I'll have that one, and you go between a certain hours and you collect it, and the discounts will be quite major. It'll be like all of 75 to 80% off what it would normally cost, and all of them in Coventry are all Costa, Starbucks, and they're all confections, basically. Biscuits, cakes. Here, all independent grocers and independent pasticcerie, so you can get sweet food, but the greengrocer ones are incredible. So you can get all your vegetables, and as long as you got to use them pretty quickly because mostly they're turning.
Yeah.
And so it's amazing the difference between in Too Good to Go there and Too Good to Go here. It functions in a way. It's so different in terms of the kind of food you can eat or would be eating. Because it's just, there's independent places.
Yeah.
It's just not high street stuff. Wow.
Quick return to generosity.
Oh, yeah, nicely remembered.
Went to...
It's actually why I rely on you for those things, of course.
I went to catch up with a friend who we see kind of every other visit. But we usually have quite fixed plans when we see them.
Did you say fixed or thick?
Fixed plans. It's like we're going to go here, and we're going to do this, and we're going to eat there, and we're going to, it's like, so we go with her and her partner to wine tasting events, and so there's there's a very clear start, not always such a clear end, but
Clear start, foggy end.
Yeah, it's like, oh, why am I carrying this glass all the way home? I don't know. But this was much more impromptu. We met her after work, and she said, I'm not drinking. And we're like, oh, okay. Why? She said, no, it's just a week. I'm just having a dry week. Okay, cool. What do you want to do? I said, well, let's go and have an ice cream. A gelato. And which is called a gelato as well, by the way. There's no extra cool name for it. And so we were right. She works in the centre of the city, so right in the heart of the tourist area. And so we were walking through the tourist area, and we walked along a very famous street in Lisbon called the Pink Street, which is a nightclub street full of nightclubs. Everybody's supposed to go there, and she was saying it's dead now. It's not in terms of busyness, it's hugely, hugely busy, but its sense of culture has completely vanished because the very last Portuguese-owned club shut down, and now it's just like franchise clubs. So that was, a bit disappointing. So we were walking through there, and I said, okay, so we're going to go to this really great gelato shop. Behind hoardings, it's being turned into a hotel. And it just led to us walking around the centre of the city and kind of bemoaning the shift. And it's important to know that obviously me and Bob are foreigners, we're not locals.
You're not in traffic, you are traffic.
Exactly. And our friend also makes her living in the hospitality industry. She's either worked in restaurants or hotels. That's.
I think I've heard in Lisbon that they call you and Bob the Great Gentrifiers. I think that's their nickname for you.
Yeah, that's right. It's absolutely right. So we are.
Here they come, the Great Gentrifiers.
We are aware that the three of us, and I should say that she's from Lisbon. But we're aware that we're not quote unquote innocent in this conversation, but even so, there was that sort of sense of like, wow, the way it's being done, the speed it's being done, the thoughtlessness, and it led to us telling her a story about a really bad restaurant experience we'd had the last visit, which was just awful, but it's boring to recount here.
Food, service, etc.
Service, food, service, food, price.
Yep.
It was like everything. It was just genuinely, I think, the worst restaurant experience I've had in my life.
Wow.
Simon, it was really bad. I'll tell you another day, but it was awful. Anyway, and she was furious on our behalf and just going, this should never be allowed to happen. And I hope you've not lost faith in Lisbon. We were like, no, it's just one restaurant. She went, okay, let's try and turn our frowns upside down. Because we were feeling a bit like grim about the kind of, because that was a restaurant that was doing a cash grab for American tourists. That was it. So,
yep.
Yeah. Anyway, she said, let's just go
selling
for a walk.
Authenticity, probably.
Yeah, and it was doing exactly that, and it was anything but. Let's go for a walk, and we sort of walked just a little bit out of the centre towards the west of the city. Is that right? Yes, that's right. Yeah, that's
Towards
right.
the water.
Towards the water, that's right, yeah. So the opposite direction to where we live, because we live out towards the east. So we're walking towards the west, and she just stopped and went, "Oh, there's my friend." And her friend was inside a bar, and he's one of the cocktail makers inside a bar, and he was waving. And he beckoned us over and in, and we had like a 5-minute chat, and then he said, "Okay, you can't come in and not go without a drink. And here's some Japanese plum hooch that I've been making." And he pulls it out from underneath the counter, and he says, "Okay."
Did you use the word hooch?
Yeah. He said, "Come on, shots all round." And we looked at Delandra and went, "You're not drinking." She went, "I guess I am today." And so we had a drink of we had a drink there, and
So
then
you're an enabler.
We
You're a
weren't.
gentrifier and an enabler.
No, the guy, Lucas, he was the enabler. And then we went to, carried on walking and then around a corner. And she went, "Oh, now this restaurant here, the guy who runs it, I've known his mum since I was 17, and she's wonderful, and I really like him, and let's go in and say hello." And we went in and we said hello, and he's a guy called Gilles, and it's Cabo Verdean African cuisine through the lens of Portuguese flavours as well. So just really interesting. And we'd barely gotten through the door, and there's hugs and more drinks, and there was just something about that wandering without a plan and not having anything fixed and just rocking up into these various places. And then we stopped by another couple of places to say hello to people, and then found ourselves eventually outside the back of a church, sneaking in and pushing the door open where there was an orchestra rehearsing. And so the three of us are hiding, even though the conductor's clocked us, and he's like, "Don't fucking hang around there." And we're like, "No, but you're all so good." And it's just one of those things where you just go, "Ah." It just made me feel like sometimes a day just opens up and just keeps opening and opening and opening.
Yeah, they're gold, aren't they, those days? It does. I mean, it also it says something for the immense value of just being with people and without a plan.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the things that, to return to what I sort of began this conversation with, is I think I'm, my days are heavily scheduled. Generally, that's how I kind of get stuff done. And yet it's here, I've been reflecting on it this morning, actually, and about going, one of the things that it forces me to do is to have much more flexibility in my days. And so there's something about the things that happen, the things that have to get done, sure, but then there's the things that happen which are unplanned and which become part of my sort of understanding, or the sort of the temporal experience of the day, or the sort of sensory experience of the day. And that's, wow. And today was one of those days. It just, just for all sorts of reasons, it's just been a day kind of packed, but also super, super chilled at the same time. And it's very, very, very beautiful.
Here's to packed, chilled days.
Yeah.
Bye.
See ya.